The countdown to 400 videos is really on. And it's not about the number of videos at all. And today I really did feel the sense that this type of conversation with myself is over, at least on the topic of extrapolating things to mental health, because I have talked myself out of the mental health system to this point, and I've created this video thing that is a type of passive advocacy, and I remember talking to myself about creating this as passive advocacy so I can just move on to something else. And I'm feeling that today. And I might still talk to myself on video, but I do want to move on to something else. Maybe making shorter, better quality videos than rambling on, which was an important part of the process, but I don't know how important it is anymore. And the self-dialogue really has been my one thing. And I talked about how I read on Steve Pavlina's website that sometimes it's good to have a one thing. And I read that on his website after I'd already been doing this for probably 8 months. So it really has been my one thing. And in terms of wrapping up my one thing, since I've been a little bit under the weather these last few days, I've spent time at home organizing my videos. So I made a Google Sheets spreadsheet and put all the video dates in, as well as the time length, and then all the links to the audio videos, and then a separate one with all the links to all the video videos. And this is helpful right now because I'm backing up all my videos from iCloud onto an external hard drive, and the easiest way to find the right video in the proper order is to use the time. So there was a reason for all of that, not just being really organized, because I'm not that organized with it. But I saw that it would be helpful, so I did that. Plus, that way I have all the links when I decide to post them to my blog or something. I can just go into the spreadsheet and look for the link, as opposed to going into YouTube, which is kind of chaotic with so many videos in there and so many different dates. So now it's organized for possibly sharing it. So even though I'll wrap up the conversation with myself, perhaps I'll share about sharing it at some point. I don't know when. There are a few things happening in the next couple weeks where my life could really change in one direction or another, and I'm not sure which way to go. One way could be a job, and that would take a lot of my time, so that would be a reason to not talk to myself so much. I won't have the time. And the other is just creating the business, which I could still do anyway. So I'll see what happens with the job thing, and then from there, perhaps submit my business name after that and keep going with that process. Because I need to create something else. And yeah, I'm just thinking of moving into creating other things. I'm not sure what my one thing will be next year, starting September 11th. I was thinking of practicing writing, getting better at that, because I'm not great at writing. I can say a lot of things, but it's difficult for me to put it in something linear and logical, but that will be helpful in creating a business. So learning to write in a linear, logical way could actually be helpful to get my brain oriented around that, which would extrapolate to being able to create a business, maybe with no outside help, because right now I feel like I would need help to even know where to start. Not because I don't have ideas, but it's difficult to make a stepwise process and then work on it. And I feel like creating that list of all my videos and now backing up all the videos, it has actually been helpful to get my brain in this linear mode. I've done all these videos in 720p, which isn't even the greatest quality, so it would be nice to create some 4K videos, which would require being a lot shorter. And I've been backing up all my videos, and I really hope that my family has unlimited internet. I think they do. Their data could get throttled back, but that's a risk I'm going to have to take because they're away right now, so at least I'm not disrupting their bandwidth. Hopefully if they get a huge bill, they can get a one-time pardon, or even if I have to pay it, considering I've invested probably 1,000 hours in this project, it's good to have it properly backed up. I just ordered a 2 terabyte hard drive on Amazon, so I can double back it up on the hard drives and then also upload it as a complete project to iCloud, so it's always organized there if I ever have to put it on a hard drive again. So these are all really finicky things that I didn't imagine I would be doing, but it's important to protect what I've created. And I actually bought the 3-year data protection warranty for $20. Usually I don't do that, and last time I got an external hard drive, I got it at Costco, and before I left for California, it actually stopped working. And when I got back, I was inquiring into how much it would cost to recover the data, and it's between $300 and $500. And I haven't had that drive for 3 years. I might have had it for 1.5 or 2. Highly doubt it's been 3. So yeah, I think that's worth the protection there. And I don't have that protection on my current hard drive, so ordering that is helpful. So yeah, just learning to protect what I've created, and also if I do decide to share it, one way to share it would be to send it out on a hard drive instead of giving someone all the links to the internet files, or sending it on a hard drive if somebody wants to create a shorter documentary or something. I don't know. I met someone last year who was interested in making a documentary with me, and then I said I wasn't ready because I wasn't ready with the message I wanted to share, which was something beyond the system. So now I have 170 hours probably of video of myself talking myself out of the system, which might make a good documentary. But to me, this is just a new beginning, and that's what I want to go into next, is what's next now that I've accomplished this huge goal of talking myself out of the system. And I feel like I'm not satisfied with sharing at this point, because then it could turn into a life of more of this conversation, whereas I'd like to move into creating other things first, so then I'm more immersed in that, and I may choose to engage with the results of sharing this or not. I don't know, because one of the themes of what I've been talking about with myself is, well, what else could it be? And I've made a lot of meaning around that, yet I haven't fully embodied that. I've embodied being off the meds, but lately I've felt a little bit low, being in a situation that isn't that bad, really. My brain is just struggling with certain aspects, and I've been watching a few of other people's videos to get some inspiration and motivation. I watched a few videos by Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Workweek guy, and looking into those types of things instead of always watching videos about mental health, like the Zendo Project or different things. And maybe exploring different avenues will lead me back to feeling passionate about this conversation related to mental health, but maybe not. I don't know. I really want to explore that though before I share anything, because a lot of the point of making other meaning was, well, this means it's creative energy. So the creative energy helped me create my way out of being a chronic mental patient, but now will it be there to create something beyond that? Which, had I never been labeled as a chronic mental patient, and that energy, if I was able to integrate it somehow, perhaps I would have just been creating all this time. So I have a lot of time to make up for in terms of lost creating. And my goal has been to create my way out of the mental health system, and I've done that. So I can't even remember if I mentioned that I'm going to buy FL Studio, which is a music making program for my iPhone, which is around $20 or something, and just see if that's something I'm interested in, because I'm curious about getting into that, which would be a reason to buy a better computer. But if I'm not that into it, then maybe I can wait to buy a better computer. Another reason to have a better computer is for video editing, but so far I'm able to do that on my phone. So I don't know if I need a new computer or just a new phone. So waiting for the announcement of the new iPhone, waiting to back up all this stuff that I've create the last few videos of this, and maybe still do videos. But I noticed when I was talking about some of those neuroplasticity and flow and perception and creativity and things, I was referring to mental health, and I could do that for the rest of my life. And I have 100 pages of notes that I could go into and extrapolate like that, but I feel like I've done enough of that. Perhaps I can use some of the things that I extrapolated to start writing or something, or maybe I don't even want to write based on that, and maybe none of it's important. I read through my last notebook of notes that I was going to type up, but now I feel like maybe I won't even bother. Maybe it's really time to move into the next thing, and it feels good to be backing up this creation and really thinking about what's next. So I feel my passive advocacy is almost done, and the good thing about organizing all my videos is I did find about 3 videos that were missing from my super long video playlist, which meant that my 300th video celebration video turned out to actually be video 303. So I wouldn't have known that though. And I also found a few audios that I never turned into audio videos and things like that. So now it feels like it's complete and there's less missing. And yeah, so that's good. And something I was reminded of while watching Tim Ferriss's videos was the importance of gratitude. And I feel like the flavor of my videos is intense and bordering on angry, and it's not really the perspective of gratitude, which I actually was really grateful the 5 years in my process in the mental health system until I had that really bad experience in April of 2016. And I shared my story within the system and was super grateful. So my videos don't actually reflect the majority of my journey, in that I wasn't seemingly against the system, and I'm not against the system really. There's so many great activities and supports. I'm mainly against how people are pharmaceuticalized and don't have an active say in that process, especially in the psych ward. So all of my anger actually came out of that one experience, and that was part of the point, that there's all this great psychosocial support and recovery and housing and clubhouses and wonderful stuff, and all of that can be wiped out in one psych ward visit in people that are lucky enough to do really well within the psychosocial supports and the bit of medication. And so if that could happen to me, and I was doing really well working in peer support and everything, then what about the people that don't even stand a chance? And then they really believe that it's worsening of their illness and they're becoming more deficient and defective over time, like we're told. And I knew for me that wasn't the case. And so I can feel like it's not the case for other people, but it's the way we're received and treated and over-medicated and treated like experimental monkeys, pretty much, and then blaming it on the monkeys that the monkeys aren't doing well when we're being experimented on. Not literally, but it's not an exact science. And we know in our hearts what's right for us, and we're not listened to. So we learn not to listen to ourselves. So it's important to find our voice and really listen to ourselves and understand ourselves and advocate for ourselves and talk with ourselves and wonder about ourselves and learn about ourselves. And so yeah, it seems angry, but I was mainly angry because I did have it so amazing, and it can be destroyed so easily by one doctor who is not collaborative, ignorant, doesn't listen. And this is happening to people all the time, every day. Lives are being destroyed by that way of approaching people who, even in the worst states, have a really good idea of what is helpful and what's not. But we're not being listened to. And the way it's set up is that we don't have to be listened to. And that is just wrong. So see, here I am ranting again. I've programmed my brain to be very capable of ranting on demand about everything that is wrong. Yet at the same time, this process is what helped me move away from the wrongness and hopefully prevent that from happening to me in the future. So that's done. That would be like a person who has recovered from cancer continuing to try to fight cancer when they've recovered. So I don't want to keep talking about this. It's so easy for me to do. So yeah, case in point. And I don't want to make this video too long. I'll make another one and hopefully talk about some possibilities for the next year. So the next year, I'm not sure what my one thing will be, or my theme, or my 10 things, or however many things, but I do feel that it's about the process of creativity. And creativity and learning are things that resonate with me the most. So how can I flow with that creative energy and that energy of learning to expand what it is that I'm engaging with and learning about? And how can this process of self-dialogue and extrapolate to other things? And that's something that Tim Ferriss talked about in one of his videos. He was mentioning a chess champion who is also able to advise businesses and then be some champion in some kind of sport because he extrapolates the way he was able to learn chess to become a champion to other areas of life. So I feel like I need to expand into that because Tim Ferriss also mentioned not putting all one's eggs in one basket, having a bunch of different baskets. So I do want to diversify my creative portfolio and move into creating artful things like music, for example. And I do want to focus more on gratitude. So Tim Ferriss mentioning 3 things that one is grateful for. And off the top of my head, I'm grateful for Hearty Nutritionals micronutrients for providing a way to taper off medications and have a nervous system free of psychopharmaceuticals. And I'm grateful for my iPhone for being able to help me talk to myself like this and being an impartial, unconditional, non-judgmental witness for this entire year. Never speaking back to me about what I'm saying, not saying it's right and wrong or judging it or saying it's stupid, just listening and being a mirror. And I'm also grateful for the sun. I love the sun. It's the best thing in this universe. And I don't think I mentioned in my last video, but I did cave and have a little bit of coffee. Oh, I made a video of me caving. Here it is. This is my first sip of coffee in 4 or 5 months, and I'm having about a quarter of this cup. And I'm just hoping it'll give me a bit of a boost because I'm feeling kind of, I've been sick for days and I'm just no longer going to resist my feeling of wanting some coffee. Maybe I'll switch to yerba mate when I can get my yerba mate from my other place in a couple weeks. So I was resisting having coffee, and I'm glad I had some because I feel like it gave me an energetic boost, which I might need a little bit in my current situation, which isn't that bad. I'm grateful for it, though I'm seemingly needing an energetic boost. And I will switch to yerba mate when I'm able to get my supply of yerba mate, which is stored somewhere right now. I can get it in a week. And interestingly enough, Tim Ferriss mentioned that his favorite smart drug or nootropic is yerba mate. And I used to drink that stuff daily, and I stopped when I was in California. So I will get back on the yerba mate, I think, being back here. It's good to have that little boost. So yeah, I feel like I have a bit of trouble with energy right now, even with the micronutrients. I made a bit of a list of my possible 1 things. So gratitude, being more grateful, and moving my brain towards that orientation, as I have had that orientation for a lot of the years in the past 10 years. It's this last year or so that's been challenging in terms of that. And learning to write, starting a business, getting more linear, it seems. I've created a lot of context, so how does that translate into daily life, into linearity? And this applies to people who go into altered states non-volitionally. How do we take some of that information and apply it to daily life? So how do I take all this context I've created for myself in the last year, which in a way is a form of creating a subtle altered state for myself, a state of creating my own perceptions and talking about them. And in a way, I've created my own universe for myself. And this context has been a protective bubble. So I do wonder if I'll need to keep creating that context, or if I've created enough to move into creativity without worrying about creating more protective context. This is more expanding into areas without referencing the mental health aspect. And I mentioned shorter, better quality videos of some sort, and perhaps making a documentary. Lifestyle design is big. I need to really figure that out in the next couple of weeks, and I'll have a better idea in the next couple of weeks what might be happening. And even if it seems it might happen one way, I need to decide if that's what I want. Is that the lifestyle that I want? And music production, and also taking really good care of my body, because when I really think back to these last 5 years, the times that I've been happiest is when I'm being anal retentively healthy, eating superfoods, eating raw vegan, or eating vegetarian paleo, kind of extreme ways of food orientations I really do well with. And I think that's partly because it's healthy, but it's also a real gesture towards extreme care of the body on the physical level. And this last year, I've really focused on context and words, and that is mental. And the year or two before that, I was in peer support, and I wasn't taking as good care of my body as when I worked at a medical clinic, where it was very supported there to be really healthy, such as raw vegan and things. And I felt really healthy, and I felt like I radiated that health, and that just made my whole world feel so good. So I haven't really been able to afford eating that way because it is quite expensive. Especially this last year, I haven't really been working very much because of that psych ward stay in April. I've been trying to keep my stress really low. Now it's time to take my hearty nutritionals. Grateful, grateful. This is gratitude. This is a gesture of gratitude, feeling grateful for the micronutrients. And I'm wondering if I can create the business around having a creative non-self. And I feel this is part of trance consciousness. One has a self and is able to function, and the self part is for the skill of taking very good care of the body, for example, that kind of functioning, whereas the non-self is the creative aspect. So perhaps it's a mixture of both. And having more baskets, having more mediums of creation, and learning new languages of creation, such as the language of creating music using a specific platform such as Fruity Loops, FL Studio on the iPhone, for starters. And I used to make music years ago. We're talking 2008 and 2009. And I didn't really get good at it, but it was fun. So I might actually create a video next of those songs playing back to back, because I don't think I did that yet. And that would be cool to share, to prime myself to getting into that mode in my brain. And it'd be cool to learn how to do these things and maybe share that with others. Not everybody's going to want to talk to themselves for a year, but people might want to create music or learn to create a blog, or things that I've done that I'm not really good at, but it'd be cool to help people set up their creative process as a business, perhaps. So that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in doing that. Imagine translating a mental health diagnosis into a creative business. Imagine going from sitting, fearing one's own brain, to creating a structure that when the brain is really creative, there are channels for that energy to go. And then that process is fun, so one also does that on a daily basis, which embeds that in the neurology and neuroplastically changes the brain, so we move into being creative beings. And that's a theory. It could be one of my theories for the next year, moving into being a creative being and creating a structure where one can be creative, and if something comes through, one has a way to share it. So can this energy be channeled into lifestyle design, a business, being a creative being, new modes of creative channels, back to the original state before this energy was ever labeled as having something to do with a personal mental illness? Perhaps it's non-personal creativity. And I'm wondering if I will go back and harvest some of what I've created from this dialogue. I'm curious about creating a lexicon of some of the terms that I've created for myself, and expanding on that to invite people to do the same for themselves, to create new words that are congruent with their understanding of their own process. And maybe have tools and strategies. I don't know. The main tool and strategy was just talking on to myself, and maybe shortening it into a documentary, which depends on getting a better computer. So yeah, I don't want to fall into the trap of using this energy to fight the system. I think that in talking to myself, I've created it as passive advocacy, so I don't feel it necessary to do that, and I can move on with my life, which was a movement that I was initiated into 6 years ago that got interpreted and translated into a personal mental illness. And I'd like to move into the non-personal creativity and not take a personal position on being angry at that, because it was all part of the journey, and hopefully there's some kind of helpfulness in this for other people. And the next year, I feel, for me, is really important in seeing what's beyond all of that. Again, I'm not even 3 months into feeling clear, so what is this clarity going to create? I don't think it's designed to create more ranting against the system. I want to move away from that completely. I need to talk myself into creativity now that I've talked myself out of the mental health system. I've done a lot of talking myself out of the system, and I don't need to keep talking myself out of the system. So I need to talk myself into creativity. So maybe I will keep making videos talking myself into creativity on a daily basis, and perhaps make them shorter. And Tim Ferriss mentioned in one of his tips, thinking about the end game. And in terms of the end game for me, what is that? I would say quiet space, a respite, and a creative space. And the creative space could be a respite for creativity as opposed to mental distress. And perhaps by having a creative space that is dedicated to highly sensitive people who are very creative, that will help to channel some of that energy so it doesn't get turned into being interpreted as a personal problem when it's a universal energy. I also thought about publishing everything that I write and delaying it 6 months, so making this creative process interactive or shareable. And I did that by talking to myself in self-dialogue about mental health, but the process might look a little bit different in this new creative thing, because the self-dialogue process was have an insight or something I want to talk about, write it down, save it for later, and then talk about it on video. But if that's not what I'm creating only, then the process is going to look different. Maybe I use that new Dropbox paper to do a document daily and then share it, or I'm not sure what it'll look like, but sharing the creativity of the brain as opposed to sharing all these meanings related to creating context. It's creating something and sharing the creative process of creating that something that is different than the something I've been creating for this last year. And it looks like I'll be making another video. I noticed this notebook on my desk. And I think I got it at Dollarama. Well, I know I did. And I don't know, I haven't really written anything in it yet. Oh, I did. I'm not sure if I'm able to embody that yet. And I was thinking about, well, what do I wish to see? I wish to see people that are happy, healthy, and creating. And I thought of something I created in terms of part of my context, which was happiness first, which has to do with lifestyle design. And also healthy is treating the body very, very well. Be on one of these outlier type diets that are really healthy as a gesture towards a body that one is really making an effort to take care of it. And health augmentation, so not so much thinking about harm reduction, but thinking about health augmentation and taking micronutrients as part of that, which increases quality of life, and then other things that I can do for health augmentation. And creating is creating a business, and also all those other things that I mentioned, possibly creating. And being crazy creative instead of a crazy person. And if you're a crazy creative, I invite you to create your own context or add to the context I've created, or co-create some of the ideas with me or other people. And there's already people doing a lot out there. This is my contribution to that energy. Let's have new conversations with ourselves and with each other and move into this crazy creativity. And I wonder what the sync reverse is. I made up that word, synchroversity, and I feel like it's creating a new world for people to move in a different context when this creative energy comes about. And that could seem a bit grandiose, but I'm going to go with it. And moving forward, showing the process of creativity, at least this process of creativity. And there's no doubt I can create a lot of words, I can create a lot of meaning, I can create a lot of context for myself, but what does that extrapolate to? And maybe it just extrapolates to that I can extrapolate, but I haven't exercised the ability to extrapolate to other things, mainly because this process that I've been in right now with self-dialogue has taken up 20 hours a week, which is a lot when I've been working part-time at different times and still living life. So yeah, with this little boost of coffee and with this little bit of planning, my brain is feeling a little bit more excited about the next phase of life. And I wonder if all this meaning making was mostly a reaction to nutritional deficiency. And I say that because now that I'm taking these micronutrients, I haven't been having as many insights. And perhaps the brain doesn't need to extrapolate meaning when one is receiving proper nutrients. I don't know if that makes any sense. It felt like I had to make all this meaning and context out of all these altered states I had and mental health crises, when it could be possible that my brain just needed some nutrients. And now that it has that, it doesn't necessarily feel the need to make meaning out of ideas and insights and thoughts. Perhaps it can create something. Perhaps that energy will be channeled into making music, which could be ultimately a new way of creating and feeling fulfilled. The process of self-dialogue fulfilled itself. It allowed me to get onto the micronutrients, and now I can get on to creating other things. And to me, the nutrients are more of a root cause resolution, and it's resolving this propensity to make all this extra meaning in order to reconnect me with the moment and be able to walk out my life and daily life instead of extrapolating abstractions, really. It was creating enough abstract concepts to move out of the abstract concepts and beliefs I'd been told in terms of the memes of the mental health system. So now that feels like it's not necessary. And since it's taken about 1,000 hours of my time to do that, by talking to myself and editing the videos and downloading them and everything that I've done, I feel perhaps this next year I need to invest that 1,000 hours in embodied action. To me, the two that are important are creativity and altruism. And to me, creativity and altruism are both actions of the no self. So the ego self is that which blocks creativity, and it's also that which blocks acting selflessly in any given moment. So starting September 12th, I need to invest 1,000 hours in the year in creativity and also altruism, and perhaps sharing that journey. September 12th, I do have an appointment to donate blood, and I'm really excited. And I have donated a number of times in the past. They took my blood when I was on lithium and Zoloft and trazodone. So it'll be nice to donate pharmaceutical-free blood. And whoever has their life helped or extended by that, they'll be getting some really clean and wonderful blood. And I want to suggest to myself investing that 1,000 hours and also $1,000 in altruism, as well as perhaps 1,000 in health, 1,000 in business, 1,000 in creativity, and 1,000 in lifestyle design, which isn't much. And I'll probably forget that I've even said this. That's the trouble. So perhaps talking like this on a daily basis, though, whatever the resonant ideas of the day, will eventually help me create what it is I'm going to create. And perhaps I can use a similar process of not worrying about remembering what I said yesterday, or whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's something that I carry out or create, but just engaging the brain in thinking, creativity, and in creative possibilities. And I do want to expand my epigesturetic matrix, which are for gestures of creativity and gestures of altruism and gestures of lifestyle design and gestures of health. So the money is actually part of the gesture. So if I buy something that's healthy, like goji berries, or I'm planning to buy this haritaki powder that I learned about that helps to cleanse the pineal gland, and so does turmeric. And I watched these two cool videos. One is called The Secrets of the Pineal Gland, and the other one is called How to Detoxify Your Pineal Gland. And the one that was The Secrets of the Pineal Gland, a lady interestingly said that when it first opens, there's this huge opening and it feels so foreign and scary and everything, but eventually we get used to it and it just feels normal. And that's something that I feel in my own experience, that I've been able to create this energy to feel normal as opposed to it feeling so ecstatic. The ecstatic part is the opening, but it's not part of this on a daily basis. And it can be grounded in daily activities. And I do wonder about this micronutrient thing, addressing more of the root cause of some of these mental health issues. The brain creating abstractions and worries and fear and terror and meaning and abstractions away from the moment, or adding more to the moment than what's there, could be as a result of not having enough nutrients. So then we create all these psychosocial programs around it and medication and everything, whereas if people had proper nutrition, perhaps that would take 80% of the pressure off the system. And I wonder about that, because through this process of self-dialogue and taking micronutrients, I have removed myself as a person needing the supports of the system, which then takes pressure off the system. So if we're able to engage in a process that moves us away from the system, then there's less pressure on the system, and then there's naturally room for people who do need that, which could be about 20% of the amount that is being utilized right now. Who knows? It's hard to say. And I'm not saying that should be a motive of people as, oh, I want to do this to take pressure off the system. It's for one's own quality of life. And I've been making a lot of meaning and context over this year, and I had an insight that said to me, let the moment make meaning out of you. And I did have one insight that I wanted to share, one extrapolation, just to humor that. And I was thinking about our current reality as a sort of sensory deprivation tank. And if you know anything about sensory deprivation tanks, they block sound and light and even the sense of gravity, because one is floating and everything. So in that experience, one can hallucinate sometimes or have altered states of consciousness. And I was thinking about how reality, as we experience it now, deprives us of most of our senses. We have an overemphasized sense of ego self. We have an overemphasized sense of desire and pleasure and getting what we want. And we have a less sense of beauty and smelling the roses and seeing the roses and interacting with nature and a lot of the things that we're biologically coded to experience. So in that way, it feels like the way the current reality is designed might naturally cause us to hallucinate, because it's depriving us of a lot of our senses. And then people who experience altered states and hallucinate and then are interpreted by a psychiatrist and then medicated, that deprives the senses even more. And then that often leads to people having a deprived lifestyle. For example, an awful scenario being people living in their parents' basement, watching TV all day long. That deprives the senses, so it seems to me that might naturally lead to more so-called hallucinations because, again, the senses are being deprived, much like a sensory deprivation tank. And who knows if that's true? It's just something that I thought of, and I wanted to extrapolate since I still have permission from myself to do so until the 400th video. that's all I want to talk to myself about today. I will make that video with my songs in a row just for fun, and after that I'll only have a couple left until 400, so I might make some kind of intro video. I started writing something up today, it just happened, that I might share. I have a tickle in my throat.